A law firm in 2026 will not suffice or succeed without using advanced prompting techniques, because what I realized that the more lawyers who use advanced prompting techniques, they start to work more efficiently and faster. And they already started to decrease their prices because they wouldn't charge the client for 3 hours of working hours if they managed to do the job within 30 minutes. If a lawyer thinks that they are too busy to learn AI, I would say that there will be lawyers who don't. So there will be lawyers who say that I will take the time to learn AI because I will take a competitive edge over those who thought they were too busy to learn AI. ChatGPT was released in November 2022, and I remember that one of my tech-savvy colleagues came to me and said, "Look at this tool, Robert. This can answer everything that you ask." And I said, "No, for sure not. Let me try it." And I asked for the submission of a European Union trademark application and the entire proceedings, costs and forms required, and it just answered everything. And back then, it was not standard because there was no tool that you ask freely formed questions like if you ask a human, and then it answers you the same way as a human would answer. So it was very surprising and very scary in the first place, and that was in the very beginning. Despite I work for a Cypriot company, I work in English, but sometimes I need a Greek translation of the same work, and I can easily ask ChatGPT in English to start our drafting process, and then I ask it to research on Cypriot law. It finds everything, and I also always cross-check the references to make it a reliable reference. But then in the final move, I just simply ask it to translate it to Greek language. And whenever I presented it to my Cypriot colleagues, they all confirmed that it's 100% authentic and reliable. So the answer shortly is yes, you can perfectly use it. In my course, I also present this use case related to saving hours or even a dozen of hours while using ChatGPT. So this one was related to an agreement when I needed to really review an agreement that I have never seen before. Because when this kind of a legal transaction happened, I was still a high school student and I was not really into legal professions. And after that, for 10 years, there were no such transactions in place. And nowadays, these kind of transactions started again. So I had no clue how to start reviewing this kind of agreement. And I asked ChatGPT to review it, and let's base the legal opinion on its training data, the industrial practice of these kind of documents, and let's see what it can do. And ChatGPT was trained on vast amount of data, so I was sure that it can find something in its data set. And then I asked ChatGPT to compare this individual agreement with the general terms and conditions of the vendor, because this is usually what we lawyers also do, that when there is an individual agreement with the vendor, we compare it to the general terms and conditions to see the liability caps and payment lines and intellectual property rights transitions and so on. And ChatGPT performed it within 3 seconds. And I just only linked the URL of the vendor's general terms and conditions. And then it identified some red flags that I didn't like. I asked ChatGPT to draft a client-ready conversation with my proposed amendments to the client agreement, to the vendor agreement, and then I finished the entire workflow within like 30 minutes. But if I had to review it all, the 17 pages individual agreement, the 30 pages general terms and conditions, and also think about the legal proposal, the legal clauses proposal, it would have taken me 5-6 hours, but roughly a workday for sure. If you want to have legal grounds for using ChatGPT or any AI tools, you should make an enterprise level agreement and conclude a DPA, a data processing agreement with them as well. So legally you are fine. And this is the very first step. The second step, to turn on that AI learns on your inputs. So you do not teach your inputs to the AI how to improve its workflows. And thirdly, this is rather a technical issue than a real issue, because technically it first anonymizes the data, then it aggregates it with a lot of similar data to make the individual data unrecognizable, and then it encrypts it as well So the chance of your confidential client information appear in somebody else's conversation is almost zero. We cannot exclude technically zero, but its chance is 1 in a millionth of chance. The real issue is if somebody breaks your account, as I mentioned earlier, because if somebody breaks into your account, they can read the entire conversation history that you had with ChatGPT. If I attended a lot of international conferences, and I see that the next step is not prompting, but making AI works for us as an agent. So making the AI do the job for us, for automations, for example. But even for that, the first step is to learn how to prompt well, because you will need to know how to prompt the AI agent to work for you. So I would say that in the next year, learning how to prompt will be a must, because AI will develop, and those who use AI will gain a competitive edge over those who don't. I will be honest. You could find all this knowledge for free of charge on YouTube, but you should watch hundreds of videos like I did earlier, and they are not legal related issues because there are very few lawyers dealing with it. So what I did, I used my expertise, my technical background. I watched hundreds of paid courses and YouTube videos together, and then I synthesized this data through hundreds of working hours to be an applicable knowledge for lawyers that only gives relevant, practical, immediately usable information to lawyers, and they don't have to take hundreds of hours that I already invested into it to find the relevant information that they might be able to, but not surely be able to use during their work. I would rather say that I have some wow moments in my course, because one part is a hands-on demonstration of prompting concepts with the minimum necessary theoretical content and showing it how to put into use with AI tools. And the second part of my course is a real hands-on demonstration. I show on ChatGPT's website how to put into practice these concepts. And one of the concepts is when one of my friends approached me with a request to register a trademark. And those who are intellectual property lawyers, they know that when you receive a client documentation of a product, it takes several hours of brainstorming to decide how to classify it in accordance with this classification system, how to generalize it to fit into that framework. And I used to hate that kind of work when I was a junior lawyer. And I just simply fed good context, because good context is always needed for AI. I uploaded the client presentation to the AI model, and I asked it to classify it in accordance with the NIST classification system. And in 8 seconds, it gave me a perfect classification. I iterated it a little bit, and then I asked to prepare a client communication to approve the proposed classification. But in the end, it teaches lawyers who watch this kind of demonstration that they can really trust AI, because it can do wonderful things when it needs to analyze data and compare it to external data like internet related sources or its trained data sets.